Hello and welcome back everybody to True Remembrance. Man, last episode was some heavy shit, wasn't it? Like, wow. I wonder how this will all turn out. I mean, he did say he shot Anali in the church. So one way or the other that has to happen, I guess. Or no, wait, didn't he say like he remembers how hard it was to pull the trigger on him? So is Anali going to kill himself, or... Man, I don't know. I guess we shall see. It was raining harder than ever now. I just kept walking through town. I felt numb to everything around me. I thought maybe some brilliant idea would occur to me if I just did this. Talk about stupid. Because no matter how much I brainstormed, my conclusion was always the same. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't help Anali, and I couldn't help the girl. I wandered about aimlessly for a long time, but eventually I was out of ideas and out of energy. I stumbled back to my apartment. It took more effort than I'd ever imagined to climb those steps, and then to unlock the door. The girl was nowhere to be found, but I was in no condition to be thinking about that right now. I collapsed onto my bed. Water ran off my hair and had entered my eyes, so I brushed it off gloomily. I fell asleep in a matter of minutes. I slept forever. When I awoke, I had a high fever. Maybe because of the rain. Maybe because I was tired of thinking. I couldn't even stand. There were so many things I had to do, but for the life of me, I couldn't move my body. This was hopeless. It took me 3 days. On the evening of the third day, I got up out of bed and stumbled outside. I had to get over to that church, before it was too late. I had to get that girl before Nali made her take on his pain. And I knew, in the back of my head, that this wouldn't solve anything. But I had no other course of action. 3 days. It's not a long time, but it was enough time for fall to turn into winter. It was so cold. I felt frozen solid by the time I opened the door to the church. The girl was curled up on the floor, her head in her hands, and Anali was lying on a bench near her. The same gentle smile that had always graced his face was gracing it now. Except his eyes did not open, and his body did not move. I couldn't believe it. I moved in closer. I needed to know. The girl raised her head from the floor at my approach. Her hair spilled over her shoulders. It was white. Yeah, that is why she got white hair. Pops, he always was sick. He refused hospitalization because he knew he couldn't see me. He hid it. I found him, collapsed here. Tears continued to stream down her face, but she didn't bother to wipe them. Instead, she gently touched Anali's face with her hands. It was such a gentle act, as if she were saying goodbye to each and every one wrinkle on his face. Pops. Pops. But Anali never woke up, and the girl shed tears. So many tears that Anali's face was drenched by the time it was all over. But, so he killed himself, basically. Her tears, her white hair, her shuddering body, it all filled me with such pain. So in her own way, she had taken his pain away from him at long last. Yeah, but she didn't though, did she? He was sick, he refused because he knew he couldn't see me. He hid it, I found him collapsed here. Yeah, but am I getting this right? That means that she didn't take away his memories or anything. But yeah, that he just basically died, you know? Well, in whatever way, right? But at this rate, she was going to cry. Cry forever until she too disappeared. The realization chilled me to my bones. I wasn't about to let that happen. Not if I could help it. So I started walking toward her. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was going to try to seal her psychic corrosion away. I already knew this wasn't possible. But I had no other course of action. I had to try it. She looked at me then with such determination and rage that I took a step back. And she cried out, can't yell, "Get away from me!" She tore herself away from my gaze and started shaking her head violently. "Let me go! Pops asked me to stop. He wanted me to just stay with him, just hold his hand, until the end." I looked back at Anali's peaceful face. And I knew that there was no way he could have died like this unless... But I didn't want him to leave me. Not with all that pain. Not with all those memories. So I... She backed away and glared at me. "These are my memories." No. No, they are not. So before he died... Okay. "But these are all I have left of him." Oh, she's talking about these. Okay, now I get... My bad. Okay. So he really killed himself and she doesn't have... she didn't, like, seal his problems away before he died. Okay. She covered her face with her hands and cowered. "Don't you dare take him away from me!" With one final scream that depleted all the energy in her slender frame, she started crying again. I don't know why. Not even to this day I don't understand it. Couldn't take another step. I stumbled out of the church. I slumped against the wall and sank down to the ground. Psychic corrosion. So hard. So sad. So heavy for a soul to bear. Just thinking about her now filled me with so much pain that I found it hard to breathe. So this was why Maria had chosen to forget. Forget it all. I looked up. It was raining and snowing. Winter had truly come. The city would be enveloped in white soon enough. Was it really true what they said? Did it really get any easier if you just forgot? Somehow, I had my doubts now. I felt weak. The fever had come back, and it was snowing so hard now. But I still could make out the black suit. I needed to stand. So Dexter knew where she was. He'd sent his agents to get her. But not if I could help it. So I stood as quickly as I could, but everything was blurry. All my strength left me. And I slumped down to the ground. Then I knew no more. And the world, everything that I knew and loved in it, went completely dark. I never stopped thinking about the girl, not even at the last. This is my true remembrance. A good thing I was like, if this would have been like, there are 1,000 questions I'm still having. Last song was warm and sweet. I could feel it embracing me, sinking into my every pore, filling me up, just like it had the first time in my apartment. But I couldn't give in to it, not just yet. I used my elbows to raise myself up off the ground. A splitting headache strong enough to shatter my head to pieces assaulted me the moment I tried to fight off the drowsiness. "Don't push yourself, please. I beg you," she said with an unsteady voice. I saw the worry written all over her face, and I managed to smile. "I guess you're right. This is a little much." She pursed her lips and whispered that she was sorry. Maybe it was the haze. Maybe it was the headache. That moment, looked like she was in even more pain than I was. You're not resisting. No wonder it hurts. So please, sleep. Okay. Close your eyes. Then I'll do as you say. I answered with a smile. La looked at me for a second. Then she nodded. There was something more than a little weird about that. She had the upper body hand by a long shot here. Why was she obeying? I ran my fingers down her cheeks. Then I drew her near and kissed her. Her eyes fluttered open in surprise for a second, but she did not resist me. I could see flecks of blood, my blood, on her cheeks now. I wiped those away gently. Once that was done, I said, I love you, La. She blinked. Once. Twice. Obviously she was shocked, but I had no idea whether she had heard me. So I said it one more time, loudly. I love you. Just 3 little words, that was all. But they were the hardest 3 words I had ever said. I couldn't do anything more. That was okay though, because she had heard me this time. She was starting to blush furiously. I could tell she was trying to say something, but that she couldn't put it into words. So I just smiled and waited. I was prepared to wait forever. My head hurt as badly as ever, but that didn't matter anymore. I'd finally said what I had set out to say. Black Iris, you're... Huh? So cruel. She burst into tears. I just ran my fingers through her hair, gently, and waited. I could feel the headache leaving me already. When she finally looked back up at me, her face was completely wet and her eyes were red. La, why did you try to erase my memory? In response, she stared down at the ground. Obviously, she was trying to figure out what to say. Her tears fell and splattered on the floor as I watched. Because you were in such pain, I thought. Because of me. Because of Pops. Because Dexter told you so. She started to nod, but then she shook her head frantically. He said that, but no. You're wrong. I chose to do it. Myself. And why would you do that? So you thought so little of me that you didn't care that I'd forget? You? I said half jokingly, but I saw the hurt in her eyes when she glared back at me. Now she was crying harder than ever. That's not true. You know it. Well, fair enough. That was a bit much. She had been cautioning me about that all month now. But what I said to you, it was horrible. You've been so hurt. You've been through so much. I hurt you more. So I thought you'd be happy to forget me. I thought, it's my duty to cure you. Like, I got this like 2 minutes already, but I feel like now that it is actually mentioned in the text, we've got to talk about it. I'm sorry that I'm interrupting the scene, but... So she was curing him all along? Huh. And now I want to revisit the Dexter scene. I really want to revisit the Dexter, where Dexter and La talk to each other. Like, if you could gather from there actually that there is some connection going on. But wow. Now that's a twist, ladies and gentlemen. That's a twist. And it even makes kind of sense. Horrible? You said something horrible? Wait, what was that? I told you to get away from me. I smiled despite myself. I'd been shocked to hear that coming from her lips, alright. However... Oh, La, you're wrong. I was hurt by the choice you made then. But that's something I could easily recover from. Because she had chosen not to forget Analgi. Maria had made the opposite choice. Because, to be honest, it made me happy. I'd never met anyone who had decided to do it the hard way. Which was why my choice when it came, had been simple. No way in hell I was going to forget her. And besides, I'd never agreed to have my memory erased. She opened her eyes wide when I said this. Clearly, she couldn't believe me. I don't know what happened between the two of you, but I never asked Dexter for this. The black suits had caught us at the church. After that, we were probably brought before Dexter and had our memories of the experience erased. So La could work as an Omega, and I could continue to work my work as an Alpha. And then we both arrived at the house on 8th, doomed to repeat the same mistakes our forgetful minds had committed over and over. I never asked to forget you. I never want to forget you. That's the honest to goodness truth. And I'd really appreciate if you stopped trying to erase my memory now. Thank you. I said with a smile. But La, she slid forward against me, putting her arms around me as she wailed, "I'll stop." I just held her in my arms. She kept crying. I was starting to get sleepy again. Except this was just because I was so relieved. When I awoke, my memories would still be there. And so would La. Besides, I'd never known that it would feel so good to hold her in my arms. There was a soft, vulnerable smile on her face when we let go of each other. I heard her say goodnight to me, but drowsiness overtook me fast, and I was asleep before I could say anything to her. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was La snuggled up right next to me, using my arm as her pillow. The next thing I saw was that she'd put a pillow under my head and wrapped a blanket over me. That was really nice of her. I also saw that she'd bandaged up my injured hand. I reached out and ran my fingers through her soft hair. She wriggled a little, and her eyes flustered open. "Sorry, did I wake you up?" She shook her head no. When she realized exactly where she was, she blushed deeply and scrambled out of the blanket. It felt kind of cold now that she had done that. Now I was regretting ever having woken her. I still felt kind of sluggish, so I just lay back for a while. But only for a while. I had things to do. The loose leaf paper from last binder was still scattered everywhere in the living room. I reached out for one of them, only to find that La was scampering about picking them all up. "Written reports, right?" "Yeah, but still, it's embarrassing." "And what are they about?" "Experimental notes. The erasure of a memory site's memory." "I see. And that was understandable. No matter how deeply you searched through the literature, you'd never find so much as a case report of this. It was a highly theoretical matter, not even thought possible by most. So I was a guinea pig. That didn't make me feel so good." "Dexter wouldn't allow me to erase your memory, but he did let me stay with you. For a month. For this." She finished putting her papers back in her binder. When she turned back to me, there was embarrassment and a little bit of shame in her smile. Good morning." "Good morning." I could tell from her bashful reaction that yesterday hadn't been some kind of weird dream after all. And why, when I thought back on it, I felt just as bashful. Except La probably had no idea that I felt just as embarrassed as she did. It happened when he had a poker face like mine, I guess. Well, let's have some breakfast and leave this place. Wouldn't want Dexter's goons to find us here. I was a little worried that someone might be waiting for us outside. But if that were the case, they could have dragged us off yesterday night, and nothing had happened. "We're leaving this town, La." La nodded firmly in response. We packed our bags and left the house. I looked back. So much had happened here. It felt more like home than my apartment on 5th, as a matter of fact. La kept looking back at the house, even when we got to the grove of trees, over and over again. She couldn't let go, and I completely understood. We walked on down to 6th Street. It was still early, most of the shops were closed, but a few were open, like a Roma, for instance. When we walked in, Rook looked up from the counter to see who it was and stared. Luggage? Dude, you're planning on going somewhere? Yeah, I'm leaving this town. His mouth fell open so much that I was worried that he'd discolate his joints. Now this was funny, Rook being rendered speechless. So instead, after giving Jekyll a pat on the head, Lips asked, With La? She sounded just as astonished as Rook looked. That is right. To which Lip burst into peals of laughter. By this time, Rook had gotten a grip on himself, and he was beaming as well, except he looked evil. Really? So you finally made your move, did you big playboy, you? I'm proud of you, man. I wanted to tell him no. That was totally wrong, but that would have caused more trouble than it was worth. Besides, in a way, he wasn't wrong at all. Ha! I never thought you'd beat me to the punch. We've been thinking of leaving town too. We're thinking of setting up a cafe somewhere far from here. She said with a voice more full of happiness than I'd ever heard it before. Jekyll looked up at all of us, his tail wagging furiously. Please drop by, okay? Lips walked over to where La was and gave her a big hug. Jekyll leaped up, trying to lick La on the face. La just laughed. It was such a clear, warm sound. Oh, of course. Thank you, Lips. And you, Jekyll. What about me, little lady? La and Lips both burst into laughter when they saw the mock-fallen look on Rook's face. Anyway, I take it you have some sort of plan. How are you going to get past the guards anyway? Very carefully. And Dexter? Don't tell him anything, will you? Roger. We nodded at each other. This was it then. Rook extended a hand to me. See you around, man. I took his hand and shook it firmly. We'll meet again. I know it. And then La and I left Roma forever. From there we walked to 5th Street. I'd originally settled here on 5th because I liked the dark, crisscrossing back alleys and the relative quiet. But the sun was shining so hard today that there wasn't a single shadow to be found anywhere. We reached the old church and walked inside. Anali had taken his last breath here, surrounded by rust and decay and ruin in a world where nothing, not even this church, was sacred anymore. And yet he died in peace, because La had been watching over him. This way. La led me down into the basement, and from there we'd take the tunnel out. Once we emerged, we'd be home free. But before we could get any further, we heard a door opening behind us. We turned, and sure enough, it was Dexter. He had an empty smile on his face, and a gun in his hand. I don't remember Dexter's voice. Just as I expected. You know, you guys and Professor Nali, you're all too easy to figure out. Boring, really. I made sure La was behind me, and then I took stock of the situation. I needed to put some serious distance between us and that gun. I'd like you to hand over that little lady there, please. That is not a command I can obey. Sorry. La had been gripping my arm tightly, but just now her grip loosened up. I could see her biting her lips. Clearly she wanted to say something, but... La, not a word. I'll get mad if you say anything weird now, okay? I wasn't leaving without her, no matter what she tried to say. But La gulped and nodded. Dexter took one step and then another toward us. And we matched his steps, except backwards. Soon enough, we were pressed up against the podium. Dead end. What a shame. I'd hoped I wouldn't have to kill you. To arbitrarily erase someone's memory is the same thing as killing him. I glared at him furiously, but he just smiled and said, That was for your sake, my good man. Come, are you that dense? The world is full of sad things. You can't possibly take them all in and expect to survive. His finger tightened on the trigger. I grabbed La and dove for the floor. The gun went off. I could hear the bullet hitting the wall right above me. I hit the ground. Cold stone scraped against my cheek. Then I thrust my hand in the crack between the podium and the floor. I felt something cold and metallic. I knew what this was. I grabbed it. And before he could do anything more, I pointed the gun at Dexter. But you know, there are some things that you're better off remembering. Like this gun that Anali had given me so long ago, for instance. Dexter slowly lowered his gun, but I kept mine pointed at him. So, aren't you going to shoot? You could probably kill me in an instant, you know. Dexter smiled wryly. I smiled right back. Perhaps. But if I did that, the person you gave the music box to would cry. Wouldn't she now? Dexter blinked. He wasn't expecting this, obviously, but then he nodded quietly. Yes, she would. I lowered my gun and turned to La. She was looking up at me with great concern. I just smiled at her and urged her into the tunnel. Dexter holstered his gun, turned around, and started walking out of the church. I bowed deeply. Thank you for everything. I didn't think he heard me at first, but then, before he disappeared out the door and into the light, he raised one hand in benediction. He did not look back. The sun was so brilliant when we came out of the tunnel that I had to shield my eyes. La took my arm and gently guided me into our new world. My back hurt from having to crawl through that small tunnel. I sighed and took a deep breath of free air. It was fresh and clean. All right, where shall we go from here? I asked as I surveyed the rolling hills and forests all around us. La thought about this for a moment. She didn't have to think long, though. I want to see the mountains and the ocean. The ocean and the mountains generally tend to be in opposite directions, silly. You should pick one for now, okay? I replied with a smile, but obviously La wasn't amused. Her glare vanished in a matter of seconds, though. She'd gotten just as used to getting teased by me as I'd gotten used to teasing her. Anyway, it doesn't matter. For now, let's go. We walked for a long time. When we got to the top of an especially large hill, we turned around. Our city, the city, shone radiantly in the brilliant morning light. A large city, a clean city, a city where people came to be healed, a city where memories came to die. I turned to La, only to find that she was also looking down on the city. Tears were running down her cheeks and being carried away by the gentle breeze. La. Oh, don't mind me. It's not because I'm sad. She dried her tears, and she smiled, just for me. It's because I'm happy, Black Iris. Let there be no more talk of tears or of psychic erosion or of dolor for her. It will all be over soon. Then from the ashes of the past, there will be new memories and And on that day I will put down the metal of memory sight at last, for I will be too full with joy and tears, as it is written in Anali's book. So take my hand, let's make ourselves some memories to last. And embrace everything, all the joy and all the pain. Walk with me. Our time is now, and this is our story. Sounds like something out of Lord of the Dance. Like a little bit. Fun. Thank you for playing. No, thank you for making this game. Will you return to the title menu? No. Is there anything else to do here? No, apparently not. Well, then I guess I should have returned to the title menu. Oh, fuck, now I'm stuck on the screen. Ah, no. What an emotional finale. What an emotional finale. I don't even know what to say right now. Yeah, I think I'll record the rest of this video tomorrow when I collected my thoughts a bit. Because I have actually quite a bit to say about this game. Like, actually quite a bit. But I'll do that tomorrow. Okie dokie. I'm recording this 1 month, probably. Around 1 month at least. After having played the ending. And I lack a good explanation for that. The best that I can come up with is that I'm actually not really sure what I think about the ending. And that is... I don't know. It's kind of eating me up inside. The ending was a bit weird, in my opinion. First of all, let me say this. After I have finished the game, I reread the scene where La met the guy. What was his name again? I forgot right now. When La met the guy in the hospital, the guy they faced off against in the end, you know? You remember, of course, you just saw it. After reading that scene again, it makes sense that she already knew him and that they were planning something together. Back then I didn't understand, and I think it's possible to see that there is something going on, and I didn't see it. So I actually like that. It was in a subtle way, but it makes sense. So I have nothing against them having some sort of master plan, or not master plan, but some evil things going on in the background. I'm not actually all against that. The problem I am having is mostly not even that as mentioned, not that the whole story had a turn in the end and everything was crazy and La was actually the memory side and yada yada yada. That was actually not my problem. My problem is that I enjoyed the atmosphere of this game so much. And I don't know. I it feels like the end was not the end to this game, you know? It, the whole game was so slice of lifey, you know? If that is an adjective. If it's not an adjective, I just invented it now. The whole game was so slice of lifey. Yes, there was a story, and there were many little stories, you know? You know what you do in slice of life stuff. And in the end you come out with all that crazy stuff in the end. And now as mentioned, it was not even that it made no sense or anything. And now he was mentioned before. The whole thing with the butterflies now makes sense. The thing with the guy in the hospital makes sense. The fact that he's not really, I don't know, the fact that he's not really working hard on her mind now makes sense. The fact that she's crying without any reason makes sense. Everything makes sense. Everything fits into the whole picture. And kudos to the creator for that. First of all, as mentioned 1,000 times by now, I'm a fair man. Kudos to the creator that actually the loose ends tie up. This is a free game. I have played shit that I paid a lot of money for that made way less sense. So I'm glad everything tied up. But I don't know. I feel like the mood was kinda destroyed. And I don't know. I feel like objectively what I'm saying is wrong. That is my problem. And that is my problem, and I don't really come to a solution. As mentioned, I recorded this like a month ago. And even up till now, I'm not really sure what I'm thinking about this overall. Because objectively, first of all, as mentioned, it made sense. Okay, that we only got to know like about the old man in the very end was a bit like Deus Ex Machina. And also like the person who we had to stand off with in the very end was kind of like relatively out of the blue, but not even in a... I'm not really bothered, you know? I'm not really bothered with that. Could have done a little bit better. It was not done bad, it could have been done a bit better in my opinion. But overall I have absolutely no problem with that. But as mentioned, I felt like all of this didn't belong to the same game. Give me a second to think about what I want to say. You know, the thing is, overall it was actually also really clever. As mentioned during the Let's Play itself, there are a lot of stories out there where the tutor is actually the one learning from his pupil, you know? You often see that in stories. And here it seemed to be one of these stories. But in all actuality, it turned out that Black Iris wasn't even the boss in this relationship. And I think that is actually a clever way of doing that. My bias against this, or bias is probably not the appropriate word, but my bad feelings that I have against this ending are I feel like they are very personal. They don't really add up objectively. As mentioned, the only thing I have going for my point is the ending felt like it did not belong mood-wise. We had like all this slice of life stuff, step for step, short story slice of life stuff going on, and in the end we have like the big drama, which the game wasn't. That is objectively correct, and I think that is not the best way of ending this game. But all the other aspects I mentioned before that were so good, everything tied up, etc. You know, Lau was actually the one being in charge. Objectively, that is all a cool idea. Objectively, that is very cool. So I don't even know really. On the one hand, I think it's really cool that that it made so much sense. And I also like the idea. I just feel, as mentioned, like it didn't add up mood-wise. And probably there would be games where I would be way less bothered about that. But True Remembrance had such a nice mood. It was all about the character interactions and how they talked with each other and how they interacted. And it was so good in that aspect. It was really, really good in that aspect. And in the end we get this, I don't know, this very dramatic Mexican standoff. I mean, I was already not the biggest fan of the lip story, to be honest. But, you know, in the... I don't know, it felt out of the blue. The whole terrorist theme felt like kind of out of the blue. That is probably also a negative aspect of the game. We touched way too little on the whole society thing. For the fact that in the end everything seemed to be like a big criticism on society, like the Omegas are sitting there and eating all the sadness of the people up while they die inside, etc. We talked way too little about this society to actually be, you know, be in a position to judge about all of this. I mean, obviously it's bad that they are abusing the Omegas, no doubt about it. But, you know, we have too little context for the whole society to see the grand scheme of things, you know? And to actually say how bad it is, and what exactly is going on, and what's the sick shit they are doing. So, I feel like, I don't know, yeah, that adds to my point. The ending felt too big for what this game was. It felt like the ending for a huge drama, for a gigantic drama of Shakespearean kind, you know. And the game itself was more like a slice of life story, like a very emotional story. I don't know, more like a Fields novel. What's a good Fields novel? I don't know. Maybe something like Jane Austen. I don't know if that is an appropriate comparison. Probably not. But you know, this was about the game was about the emotions. The ending was about the drama. Or the plot, let's say. I mean, drama is also important for emotions. Let's say the ending was about a plot that didn't really belong all that much to the game. I think that is my problem relatively good summed up. I should stop here, otherwise I'm losing my point and start blabbering again. Yeah, the game was like a slice of life game with a big plot ending that was too much for this game. But again, very creative and it made sense. That is very, very good. And overall, I mean, you may not believe me because I have so huge pauses between the episodes, but that always had a reason, one or another. And usually I explained it. Or at least I tried to explain it. The game overall was so good. I really liked the game. There is so little I can criticize. Like as mentioned, I mean, the ending for me wasn't perfect, but it was far from being bad. I have some negative emotions towards it, but overall I would never call this bad. Not even like okay-ish. I'd say the ending was good. I imagined it very differently. And I think there could have been more fitting endings. But overall, I would never call it anything negative. And not even something neutral. And yeah, just the mood of the game. The dialogues were, I think, well written. I liked the characters. I felt for the characters. I was totally into this game. From the very beginning to the very end. And it really touched me inside, you know. It's one of these games that really touch you inside. So I have only positive things to say about this game. Only positive things. Maybe, okay, the one negative thing you can say objectively is, and I mean it's a free game, so that is probably not even a fair criticism, but the music is very repetitive. And that is probably the only fair critique you can give. And probably it's not even fair as mentioned because it was free. But except for that, this was perfect. And Yeah, I'm really glad I played this classic of free visual novels. This was really a very nice story. I really liked it. To be honest, this is probably one of my favorite Let's Plays I've done. I'm not even shitting you. And it's sad that so little people actually watched it. I mean, as mentioned, to be fair, I had huge breaks in between the episode, but like the first few episodes I played were right after one after another, and they already did bad. I mean, even for my channel, and I mean, I'm no big channel, but even for my small channel, they did bad. Nobody really watched it, so I don't know. Maybe all people knew True Remembrance, or maybe most people are just not interested in a game that old, which would be sad because, as mentioned, I had so much fun with this game. Like, this game had me so many times emotionally, so many times. And I even cried a little bit during this game. It was just so good. So good. Okay. Let's end it here. Let me end this with apologizing for dragging this Let's Play out over... How long did I drag this out? 3 months or something? Probably longer even. It's sad that I dragged this Let's Play out so long. But it always had one reason or another. Sometimes I was on a busy time schedule and I had to do Clannad because people wanted to see Clannad and I don't want to disappoint anybody. And or sometimes I had a problem like as in this case I don't know how I think about the ending and I don't know how to talk about it. Or at one point I stopped playing the game because I expected it to end soon and I didn't even want it to end. And I'm not even shitting you, that was the real reason. I think I even mentioned that in an episode, I'm not sure anymore. But at one point I did like a 3 weeks pause with the game. Just because I thought this game was going to end like in an hour or so and I didn't want it to end. Because it was so sweet. It was such a sweet game. And I'm so happy that this had an happy ending. I'm so happy. We all know I'm a heartless bastard. I often say, you know, this would be better if the protagonist died or something. I say stuff like that. And truth be told, often a bad ending actually serves the story well. But just from not the literature critic is saying that to you. The human being is saying to you, I'm so glad this had a happy ending. I'm so glad they both got out together and they're now being together. Oh, and by the way, for those of you wondering, in the extras it says under characters or something, I don't know where it was, words or something. It doesn't matter anyway. Somewhere it was stated that La is 17, so all good. La is 17, so they can be a couple. They have my blessings. So that was a great game. Jesus, can you imagine that? I mean, you probably can, but this is one of these games, as mentioned. I haven't touched this for a month. And like every like 3 days or something, I would wonder, you should do this video, but I don't know. I don't know what to say, really. I don't know what to say. This game impacted me so much, and I don't want to really say something negative about it. But on the other hand, I wouldn't have done the ending like that. On the third hand that grows out of my bag, the ending was probably objectively very good. But on the fourth hand that is growing out of my ass, it wasn't appropriate for this game, at least not 100%. And so many emotions. So many emotions for a game that I haven't touched in a month. You know? It's amazing. It's amazing. This was an amazing game. I loved it. 2 thumbs up. Great game. Great game. Alrighty. Now I'm done. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for staying with this Let's Play, even though I dragged it out for forever. Really for forever. And, you know, usually I now say stuff like, watch my other Let's Plays and stuff, and if you don't, it's okay too. But, I mean, I know of 2 people who watched this Let's Play. For you, and those are regular viewers of mine. And I thank you very much, both of you. And maybe there are more regular viewers, I don't know, who never comment. Also possible. But I'm just saying, you know, from the comments I know of at least I know of 2 people from the top of my head who watch this Let's Play regularly. And especially to you, I apologize that I dragged this out so much. I know I had reasons, but my reasons were very stupid. So that is not really an appropriate excuse. So I apologize to you deeply. But yeah, I mean, for those who really watch this, I assume you are people who are not new to the channel anyway. So I guess it makes no sense to say check out other stuff I do. You probably already did. But if you're new and watching this, maybe in a year or so, maybe in just a week, I don't know, feel free to check something else out I did. Usually, I don't take this long for Let's Plays. Sometimes I don't finish stuff, when I really don't like it, that happens. But I never drag out stuff I really like actually over such a long period. Normally at least. So this is an exception, and I apologize. So, thank you everybody for watching. Come back for another LP if you feel like it. This was an awesome game, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.